Saturday light filtered through a canopy of sycamores, turning the playground into a moving mosaic. Swings creaked in a soft rhythm. A carousel of strollers traced lazy ovals, and the lake breathed a slow shimmer beyond the fence. On a bench near the slide, a woman in a pressed blazer draped over her shoulders tried to let her phone go quiet and let her heartbeat match the parks. Her daughter traced patterns in the sand with the careful concentration of a watchmaker, soundless as morning fog. A few yards away, a single dad knelt by a chalk-splashed path, pocketing his keys, matching his breath to his small boy's steps. In 5 minutes, strangers would share a moment that none of them would forget. If you believe that kindness and hidden strength deserve to be seen, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories. At the office, her title opened doors. At the playground, eyes did. She was the executive people called when a deadline needed saving, when a room needed order, when stakes needed calming. Yet the space she guarded most fiercely, this patch of grass and rubber mulch, was where her tools wouldn't follow. She left the language of budgets and roadmaps behind and arrived here with snacks, wipes, and a quiet prayer that today would be gentle. Her daughter loved maps of movement, the spiral slide observed from halfway up, the swing traced with sneaker toes but never taken, the sandbox sifted through. Fingers as if the grains might answer questions adults couldn't. Words at home were soft and rare, like birds that land only when the world forgets to watch. In public, sound hid. Therapists had names for it: selective mutism, anxiety responses, sensory overwhelm, but names didn't kneel down beside a child and make courage feel like something with handlebars. The mother learned to make a pocket of calm wherever they stood. She carried noise-dampening ear cups and a scarf that could become a lap blanket, a sunshade, a superhero cape. She narrated with gestures, a palm resting gently on a back to say, "I'm here," a mirrored breath to steady a wobble, a thumb brushing a wrist to name time passing. She learned to leave early and to arrive before crowds, to celebrate the invisible victories. A gaze held a second longer, a step taken toward a swing without prompting, a hand reaching for hers with no cause other than wanting to. Others saw a tidy woman who checked her watch. Few saw the list she kept on a folded index card. Today's tiny hopes: touch a rung, choose a color, smile at the dog. Some parents offered advice that sounded like orders. Some offered silence that sounded like judgment. Most offered nothing, which she quietly preferred. Her daughter offered everything that mattered in small increments. Like sunrise, noisy to cameras, but unmistakable to anyone who bothered to stand still long enough. The single dad had been there before. She didn't know it yet, but the way he tied his shoe, facing his boy, always at their eye level, hinted at history. It's not a credential, not a lecture, just the muscle memory of someone who had learned to meet a child where the world becomes possible. A whistle from the basketball court spiked the air, and a flock of laughter rolled across the path. The girl's fingers paused, hovered, and resumed their sand circles, slightly tighter now, like a record that remembered a scratch. The mother shifted closer and let her phone stay dark in her bag. A trio of parents nearby compared milestones, with the casual cruelty of good. Intentions, reading lists, swim levels. Who never stops talking? The words floated over, uninvited. The mother turned them into weather, noticed, endured, allowed to pass. The single dad laid out chalk in a spectrum, a parade of quiet color marching across cracked pavement. He didn't call out to anyone. He drew 2 boxes, then 3, then a crooked ladder of squares and left them open, not demanding feet, only inviting them. His son, small and focused, stepped onto the first square and froze as a skateboard clattered in the distance. The father placed his palm on his own chest, breathed in, out, then tapped the next square with a fingertip like a metronome. The boy copied the breath first, then the step. A private victory became a public rhythm. The girl noticed the colors before she noticed the game. Blue flared like a small ocean. Yellow sat like a patch of sunlight. The father didn't look over. He let curiosity do what instructions never could. He picked up a pinwheel and set it in the breeze, not offering, not withholding, just letting the wind do its quiet work. The plastic spokes spun until even adults forgot to pretend they weren't fascinated. The mother watched her daughter's shoulders soften a fraction. A glance flickered toward the pinwheel, then away. The father slid it a few inches closer to neutral ground. His son gathered pebbles and lined them up like punctuation marks between squares. The girl traced one line with her toe from a safe distance. The father erased nothing. He approved everything that did not harm. A toddler barreled toward the sandbox with an energy that would have unraveled the girl a month ago. Today, she lifted her hands to the edges of her scarf and pressed. A self-hug rehearsed at home. The mother mirrored the gesture and let her shoulder blades descend from the guardrails. They had climbed. The chalk ladder waited. The pinwheel spun. On the bench behind them, the Milestone chorus resumed. "Just tell her to speak up," someone said. A sentence designed by people who think willpower governs weather. The mother didn't turn. The father pretended phrases like that belonged to a distant radio. Then, the girl stepped off the boundary of sand and into the shallow end of color. One foot found blue. Her other foot stayed safely on mulch. The pinwheel held its breath. The father tapped his chest, breath in, breath out. Once more, not at her, but with the air, as if marking time for a world about to shift by half an inch where it counts. The wind picked up the tiniest corner of the scarf and made it a signal flag. The girl's eyes tracked the fabric, as if it might tell her which way the next moment leaned. The father placed the pinwheel at the border between worlds, mulch and chalk, then sat back on his heels and became still in the way a person does when they have learned. Patience the hard way. He was not waiting for her to perform. He was waiting with her to begin. His son, fluent in his own brave, took 2 careful steps up the chalk ladder and then hopped down, landing with a soft thud that made no demands on anyone else's senses. He nudged a pebble from one square to the next and set a rhythm her brain could grab. Silent, simple, repeatable. The father mirrored with a fingertip tap, tap, pause, tap. That named possibility without language. The girl's second foot found yellow. She touched the pinwheel stick with a single finger. The whirring slowed, then spun again on a new gust. Her mouth parted, not to answer a question, not to meet an expectation, but because her body found a bridge between breath and sound. The first shape was not a word so much as a decision, air finding purpose. The mother did not move. Every atom begged to rush forward, to applaud, to scoop and celebrate. She held still, a master. Class in restraint, because sometimes love is the ability to hold joy so gently that it doesn't startle. Something small and bright left the girl's throat. A syllable with edges soft as foam. It landed between the squares and did not break. The father's face didn't shift into triumph. It opened into gratitude. He lifted one finger, not for her to copy, but to honor the quiet. The son responded with the same one-finger salute, as solemn as a promise. The next sound carried a color, a selection, a claim. Blue, if a person had to name it, but bigger than the label, an identification, a choosing, a voice trying on the world in the safest possible way. The father nodded as if she had placed a star where a map had been empty. The park did what parks do with sacred things. It pretended not to notice so the thing could finish becoming itself. The mother let a single tear slip because humans are not cameras. And if we're lucky, we malfunction in the direction of wonder. She memorized the scene like notes for a meeting she would never forget. The slant of sun on chalk, the angle of a man's knee as he took all pressure off the moment, the way her daughter's shoulders dropped when the ground agreed to hold. Life did not turn into a montage, which is to say it turned into something better. Practice. The next day, the chalk ladder only got 1 visitor. The day after, 2. The pinwheel learned the names of more breezes. The girl found a handful of sounds she liked and kept them in her pocket like pebbles. She could rub when the world asked too much. At home, the index card of tiny hopes got new lines. Pick a color. Breathe with wind. Carry 1 sound to dinner. The single dad never introduced himself with credentials. Later, the mother learned he'd spent a year in waiting rooms, learning the language of patience from clinicians and his own child. He did not hand her a business card. He brought a second pinwheel the following week and left it leaning against the bench as casually as one leaves spare change, in a tip jar that matters. His lesson plan fit on a napkin: get low, go slow, and let the wind help. The Milestone chorus at the bench took on a different tune. The parents who liked to comment discovered the pleasure of noticing. Instead, how a child's shoulders, Signal safety. How a breath can widen a whole minute. How silence is not empty when it's consent. A few apologize not with words but with new habits. Less advice, more space, fewer comparisons, and more time given without charge. The CEO returned to her other title, leader, in a way that depended on both. She adjusted meetings by 2 minutes to make room for breaths. She learned that the bravest sentence sometimes has one word. She asked her team to install a pinwheel on the office balcony because symbols help adults too. The locket she never wore to. The park stayed where it belonged, in a drawer that didn't confuse past and present. The bracelet she did wear went from clenched to companion. The story didn't discover a miracle, so much as it practiced. 1. Generosity as a method, dignity as a metric, and love as logistics. The single dad didn't unlock a girl. He unlocked a room and let her choose the door. If this story touched your heart, don't let it stop here. Like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to our channel. Kindness wins to keep these life-changing stories alive. Drop a comment below. Tell us what part moved you the most. Your words might inspire someone else.